Okay, hey there. So I'm Alexa, and today I'm going to be talking about the impacts of apex predators on mesopredator populations. So our study objectives for this project that we've been working on was to determine how the presence/absence of apex predators within an ecosystem impacted the abundance of mesopredators. So some background of how we were working with this is we defined apex predators in this study as a species that lacked any natural predators within their given ecosystems. And so our mesopredators then, by comparison, were generally medium-sized carnivores and omnivores that had some form of predation on them, but were predators themselves of other herbivores or different species. And both of these predator classes were competing for the same resources, whether that is food, shelter, territory, habitat, water, anything of those nature. And so a lot of research has been done on how predator species can impact prey species and vice versa, but not a lot is known about how different predator classifications actually impact each other within the same ecosystem as they're competing for these similar resources. So what we ended up doing was we went through all of the data collected in the 2019 Snapshot USA data source, and we classified every single species as either an apex predator, a mesopredator, or neither, which generally consisted of a lot of herbivores, rodents, things of that nature. And then we went through all of the different camera sites, different areas that these data was collected, and determined the number of apex predators that were seen there and classified them that way. So we have classified by no apex predators, one apex predator species, or two or more species. And then we calculated the relative abundance of each mesopredator based on the number of times any species was seen compared to the number of days of deployment. And we use this data to determine statistical significance between the different areas. So this graph here just shows some of the examples of our apex predators and some of the examples of our mesopredators. So our results, we had 1,530 cameras at 110 sites in 50 states. So a lot of data we were working with. We had 6 apex predator classes and 21 mesopredator classes. These included species as well as any unknown species that we could determine was an apex or mesopredator, but couldn't specifically tell what species they were. So we ran an ANOVA test on this data and found at the 0.05 alpha level, we had a degrees of freedom of 217 with a p-value less than 0.00001. So this very clearly gave us, for this data, a very solid statistical significance between our apex predators and our mesopredators. So this graph here is showing the relative abundance of our mesopredators compared to each of our apex predator classifications. And you can see that our error bars within these graphs don't overlap, which is obviously then solidifying to us that there is some type of significance here. So this is actually the exact same graph as before. This is just breaking it up by the number of species that we saw. So as you can see, we chose to condense those 21 classifications into 6 to make our data analysis a lot easier and a lot cleaner. And this ended up proving very interesting. You can see that raccoons without any apex predators are very, very successful. And so what this graph now is showing is that this is showing the percentage of each species in comparison to their abundance. So for our very high apex predator occurrence, we have a much higher amount of coyotes or foxes versus when there are no apex predators, we have a very high amount of raccoons being seen. So some areas of further research is we'd like to see why this is. Why raccoons do best without apex predators, why coyotes seem to be doing well with them, and what seems to be causing these successes. We also want to know how environments impact this, how human impacts or the different types of vegetation or the habitat, any of these different factors, and see if this can be causing these types of successes. It'd also be really interesting to look at how each of these specific species are interacting. Is it that coyotes are following around apex predators and feeding on their carrion, and that's why they're being very successful? Is it that raccoons are being severely outcompeted by apex predators, and that's why they're only successful where there aren't any? Just things like this that really show a better idea of how all of these predator species work together. And then also, we were really wondering what resources it was that was driving these successes. Was it food is the driving factor? Is it habitat, territory, water source, anything to that nature? What is it that's causing apex predators to be in much higher quantities, or causing mesopredators to have successes or not? Or what's causing an increased competition between them? So that is it. Thank you very much for listening.